Hey guys, before we get started, you know the thing that we always ask you to do, tell your friends how cool we are, because that's really what we want. Just tell your friends, hey, there's these cool guys I know that I listen to, and I hear them say stupid things, but I laugh, so I
they
listen
think
to them
they're
quickly.
handsome and they think they're funny.
And they're usually very late to the party. Case in point, a very popular movie or TV show comes out, and like 3 weeks later, we're like, "Hey, we should probably talk about that thing." But that's okay. That's okay. You know what? It's going to be fine because we're going to do it. So hit us up on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at LaunchpadPod, on our website, launchpadpod.com. Check us out on YouTube, launchpadpod.com. And without further ado, let's get on with the show.
Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
All right, welcome to Launchpad Podcast. I'm Aaron.
Matt.
And Matt, we have a guest. Let's just dive in. We have a guest. We have a special guest because today we are talking Star Wars. We're talking about Andor. No. JK.
You said we're late to the party. That shit came out 45 minutes ago. We haven't had time to watch that.
No, we're talking about Obi-Wan, the last thing that came out for Star Wars, the miniseries.
Let's give a big Launchpad podcast hello there to Kyle. What's up, man? It's been a minute.
Hello there. Yes, it has. It's been a while.
I want to start.
Been busy.
Yeah, I want to start by apologizing to you, Kyle, because you're like, when are we talking about Obi-Wan Kenobi? And I was like, I literally just moved to Savannah. I started a new job and I am slammed. I haven't gotten to watch any TV, but the only TV I got to watch that I was like, okay, I'm going to sit down and watch this. We have to do it. I'm letting down the fans. I'm letting down my buddy Kyle. We're going to watch Obi-Wan Kenobi. So I finally finished it. Matt finished it. And now we got to talk about it.
And I think like our fans and our listeners know, like, Kyle is our go-to Star Wars television boy. And he's been like, I think every Star Wars TV show that we've reviewed, we've been on with him, walking through episodes, talking about Easter eggs. Yep. And like, this series finished like weeks ago. And Kyle keeps texting me, hey, man, ready when you guys are. Hey, man, you guys want to do Obi-Wan soon? Hey, man. And when he's saying it, I'm imagining him sitting on a couch, and he's like a Calvin and Hobbes type character. And he's sitting on the couch, and he's got his Obi-Wan hood, oversized Obi-Wan hood on. And he's just sitting there with his little extending blue lightsaber, just being like, we'll do it soon, I guess. We'll do it soon.
Just waiting on you guys. That's all. No worries.
So, Kyle, are you excited to get into this? Are you excited to take this apart and talk about it?
I am. I thought it was a very good series.
I thought it got there. Like, I'll start off with this. The first episode didn't grab me, and the second episode did not grab me.
Fair.
But by the time Darth Vader showed up, I was like, oh shit, this is what I want. This is what I want. And they fulfilled a lot of things that I was like, okay, well, if it's going to tell this story, here are the things that I need. And it did those things. And by the time we got to the end, by the time you have the moment, you didn't kill Anakin Skywalker. I did. I got goosebumps. Oh, I loved where it went, but it started off very slow in a way that I was kind of concerned. Matt, what did you think?
First thoughts was like, okay, this is off to a good start. Like Boba Fett, I was off to like immediately was like, wait, what are you doing? Like, I cleaned my ear and was like, did I hear you correctly? This was not like that at all.
Gangster?
I immediately fell in love with young Leia. I thought she was a good actress, and I liked seeing that spunky little personality. But by episode 2, I was like, man, this is getting old quick. Like, it's like it. They should have peppered it in there. Instead, they just miniaturized full blown adult general bug up her ass Leia, and it was like it would have been funnier. Well, I guess that's not true. It was funnier and cuter this way, but that's not what I wanted to see because she didn't act like a kid. It would have been cool if she was a kid doing kid shit, but Leia kid shit. But that was an intriguing thing. I also got into this because Star Wars and Lucasfilm and Disney are shooting these movies out every 20 minutes or these I had no idea what it was. So I assumed, especially in the beginning when he's spying on Luke, that this is going to be a him and Luke series. And all of a sudden it's like, no way, Leia's kidnapped and everything. And I'm like, wait, what?
Yep.
You know,
a right turn.
I was excited to watch it. I was excited to get into it. Kyle, what's your first takes from first episode or two?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you guys. It was slow burn on the first 2 episodes, but I mean, it was just kind of showing the background of where it's been now. It's been 10 years since, Revenge of the Sith, and Obi-Wan's just trying to hide and keep hiding to keep Luke safe. And this is just the aftermath of all that going on. So, yeah, I mean, it was a slow burn in the beginning, but like you said, Aaron, by the time it got to episode 3, man, when Darth Vader comes out and it's Hayden Christensen that's really doing it, it's like, oh my goodness, this is crazy. So, yeah.
While I was watching this, I was like, if I could take this miniseries and re-edit it with the prequel films, the 3 prequel films, basically drop Phantom Menace, except a couple of flashback moments where they like meet for the first time, and peppered in flashbacks through this whole story, this is a better prequel than the prequels are. This told that story better to me because it told it from a point that was relatable. Whereas I felt like the prequels never really did that for me. Everybody knows I'm a massive prequel hater, but watching this, it told the story that I felt the prequels did in a way that was like, wow, you felt like you betrayed your friend and you felt like I didn't do something to save him. And I think that that's something is a powerful character thing to explore. Like whether you lose a friend to, let's say, a more real life thing is like drug addiction or wackadoo conspiracy theories on the internet. Like people are like, could I have done more to help them? Could I have done more to save them?
Right.
Even though it's that, it's not your fault, but the deeper pressure of this is you lost the war and now you're in hiding. And that's crazy. That was,
and I gotta say, Rumi, you and I have knocked this ball around for literally years. Kyle, I'm going to guess that you're going to be in my court and back me up here. But what you just said, Rumi, how this is what you wanted the prequels to be, right? This is what you wanted the story to be. You're so anti everything prequels, and I get it. But like, my suggestion is just be anti the prequels. Watch the Clone Wars cartoon because that is what the prequels should be. And like, Kyle, tell me if I'm wrong. You guys got to watch the YouTube. Tell me if I'm wrong. This series, the Obi-Wan series, is a great end cap to that because that show, Clone Wars, walks us through their relationship. You see them loving. You see them as brothers. You see them as brothers in the Jedi. You see them as general brothers. And you see them have their trips. You see them have their faults. Instead of that fucking slapdash stuff that we see in the prequels, where you're just like, oh, they're brothers for no reason. And you're like, but I didn't see that. I'll just trust you. And like, now he hates him for this reason. And you're like, but I didn't see that. You're just telling me. The Clone Wars cartoon show kind of showed all these things that they went through, the trials and tribulations, ups and downs. And I feel that if you watch that, this Obi-Wan, especially Ewan McGregor, did a great job portraying, I think, the older version, the 10-year later of that Obi-Wan from the Clone Wars cartoon. It was that was satisfying. I think that might have been my most satisfying thing, even more so than any of the Darth Vader stuff.
I've never had a problem with Hayden Christensen or Ewan McGregor in these roles. I thought they did great jobs. I actually like Hayden Christensen as an actor for the most part. He has had some bad turns. There's like memes and lots of videos where you're like, yeah, that's pretty bad. But like, I think overall, I like him as an actor and what he can do. So I wasn't bummed about that.
Yeah, no, like back to what Matt was saying as far as like the Clone Wars, like, it fills in all the gaps. And then now this Obi-Wan series, you really understand the chemistry between Obi-Wan and Anakin Skywalker. And even if you saw the last season of the Clone Wars, which was season 7 that came out, which was I thought overall was a great season.
Yeah.
It had Ahsoka arc in it, but it did show glimpses of Obi-Wan and Anakin, like right before Obi-Wan goes to Utapau and Anakin takes the 501st and goes off and does his thing. And then that's when Execute Order 66 happens. He's taking the 501st clone troopers to Coruscant, which then now this show goes right into that's what happens. So it opens up with, a Jedi Master teaching the youngling Padawans the Force forms on how to do saber forms. And then all of a sudden the doors open and 2 501st clone troopers come in and start shooting at them. And you're like, oh my goodness.
Yeah,
and
that was a hardcore start to the series, right? I was like, whoa.
They even gave a warning. Disney gave a warning because that was like right around the time, not to get like emotional or political here, but that was the time when that Texas school shooting happened.
Yeah.
And they opened it up with
a week after.
title.
Yeah. It was like, damn.
It's a little bit in poor taste, but they didn't know that was going to happen when they released the show. So they had to put a little warning that some images might be a little, unsettling for people.
Yeah, have your Padawans leave the room.
It was intense. And right off the bat, like I remember the internet went nuts. People were like, whose lightsaber is that? What lightsaber is this? What symbol is that? And like there's all this like guessing. I was like, it's going to be tied into this somehow. I don't think there's a bigger image. But when we keep flashing back to that, and when we see Hayden Christensen come in and like the look on his face with the lightsaber, and here's something they do throughout this entire thing, and this is a very like Kubrickian thing. The color of light that is reflected on their face, representing how they're feeling and what they do, is so freaking cool. And we'll talk about that again a little bit later. But like we open with that and we get into some of the early moments when we find Obi-Wan Kenobi and like what he's been doing for the past couple years in hiding. And he's like cleaving whale meat.
Yeah, he's a fish guy. He's a desert fish man.
Fish
butcher.
Been 10 years since then, and he's been in hiding, does the same routine every single day. And he's like you say, he's a fish butcherman. And that whale that he's actually doing or cutting the meat is a Tibidon whale. And it's like an old creature that was because Tatooine used to be an oceanic planet, as we found out in Boba Fett when the Tusken Raiders are explaining to Boba Fett during that clan meeting that Tatooine used to be an ocean planet. So obviously these creatures had to adapt to be in the Dune Sea now. So this whale is kind of like a purrgil, but it's not. Those purrgil whales are like the ones that were at the end of Rebels when I'm drawing a blank here, but when General Thrawn and Ezra, that's what it was. Ezra were going into warp speed, hyperdrive speed into some unknown dimension. Those purrgil whales that we thought that was where it, but it's actually, I looked it up. It's called a Tibidon, and they're native to Tatooine and stuff like that.
But
and
how do they taste?
I don't know. They might taste pretty darn good.
A little sandy.
I mean, he's taking some sushi home every night, man. He's got that some nice Tibidon sashimi ready to go. I love the world that they set up. It's very bleak. Tatooine is always an interesting planet and a classic planet, and I'm always worried that you're gonna like get bored, or they're gonna like. We've seen Tatooine so many times at this point. Like, you got to be careful, and they're doing a good job. Yeah. And when he meets with Lars, is it his brother? Are they brothers?
You mean
Uncle Owen?
Yeah, Owen. No, well, I don't know. I guess in the comics, I think they portrayed them as brothers, but really, I don't think they are. It's just they're two separate things. Obi-Wan actually does mention though to Leia in one of the episodes that he had visions, like small glimpses of that he had a brother back then. Yeah. But they never really touch on it. They just said that he was taken by the Jedi Order, or he went to the Jedi Order, and that was it. And then memories have been lost and stuff like that. So, but they never really, went any further than just saying that he had a brother at one point.
Why did they give him that kid?
Yeah, why did they give? But I love how he's like, stay the fuck away from my kid now. This is my kid, and I like that, and I like that he's tough. I like that he's strong, and they really show something. You're like, man, Luke is such a punk in the first one. He's like, man, my parents just don't understand. It's like, dude, you don't even have a clue what they went through.
Right.
They're hiding you. You are the son of the most evil motherfucker in the galaxy.
They won't let me go to the space mall to pick up some power converters.
I want to I want to go to the Tashi station. And they're like, gosh.
Wait, maybe I'm like the fucking chosen one, and that's why my parents were assholes. I just figured that out. I figured it out.
You solved your own case.
That's
there
it.
You go. There it is. Yeah, no, like, and then it's cool to see that both actor and actress that played both Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru come back from Revenge of the Sith, and then it's the same exact people that played them, which is awesome. So that was pretty cool that they brought them back. As
somebody who works in TV, thank God that you were lucky enough to pick the person who, I'm sure when they were cast the first time, it was just like, they're going to be here for one day. They don't have to be good actors. They just have to look the part.
Right.
It's like, thank God they're actually decent actors, because there's so many times where somebody gets cast and they're like, they just have to look the part. And then they're like, well, now they're going to be in all these episodes. Now they have to say lines, and the person's like, da, 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 da. And you're like, oh no. Oh, we cast poorly. And then suddenly you change them out halfway through. Like,
well, it's almost like to that extent, I feel like Ewan McGregor is a very both extreme and watered down example of what you just said, because I didn't care for him at all in the prequels. I didn't like Obi-Wan much as a character. I liked his voice, but I didn't like, I think he did the best job he could, but I didn't care about that character. In this series, I don't think he deserves an award, but he did a good job. I like this character. This felt like a Star Wars. This felt like a TV show that I wanted to know what his character was going to do. So I feel like, yeah, he did. He dope for 3 movies. Yeah. And then he was like, okay, now we'll do big boy stuff.
Well, I knew he could act. I mean, have you seen a little movie called Moulin Rouge? I mean, swoon.
Oh, I thought you were going to talk about when he screamed at that baby that was crawling on the ceiling. George Lucas watched that shit and watched him running around with his dick flopping around and was like, young Obi-Wan, right there.
My favorite thing about this is, by the time this ends, you're like, he looks like he's maybe 40 or 50. And then it's like the next time we see him, he's like, I am an old man.
Yeah. And Alec Gillish rolls up.
The desert has changed me.
Oh, yeah. The Stanza tattoo definitely got his skin. He didn't moisturize enough.
You know what I want to see, though? That the biggest change is not how they look. But the other day I was watching Empire Strikes Back with Kent, and we meet Yoda. And Yoda's just this little kooky little Muppet. And, he's stealing fish sticks and shit. And Obi-Wan, when we meet him, he's like, of course I know him. He's me. And, he's like walking around and he's just chilling. And he's, seem to have found it, when he's talking about the message from Leia and stuff. He's just kind of like a chill guy, like a fun old uncle. And it's like both of these guys, when you look at Yoda, the last time we've seen Yoda is in, arguably in Clone Wars or Revenge of the Sith. And now we see Obi-Wan all through the cartoon, and then to this. When do they shrug it off and que sera sera? At one, you could say that Yoda was doing it as part of his trick on Luke to see that he was a real Jedi and shit. But Obi-Wan is just like, hello, little one. I don't seem to remember ever owning a droid. And it's like, it's just more serious shit going on here, pal. Take this seriously. This is a chosen one and shit. Come on.
Yeah.
And he knows who Luke is. Like, he knows the gravity.
Right, that's right. It's not like we know that now, right?
If Luke shows up on my doorstep, I have to pretend like I don't know him and I don't know what his potential is. Because the last time I thought somebody was the savior and shit, didn't go well.
Yeah. Maybe that's why.
And even in this, he's like mean to Leia to an extent. He's like, I don't even want to talk about the Force with you. Like, when Luke's like, what's the Force? He's like, some damn magic, kid. Like, immediately he's like, hey, you want a laser sword? Here you go, kid.
What else is pretty funny, because he's in super secret hiding, doesn't change his name, lives in the same town that he's always lived in, and or at least where Luke lives in, right? Then we see him the first day we meet him. He walks into a bar and chops off an arm with the extremely rare, unique weapon that was only used by the type of person that he was, right?
The more you build, the more it falls apart. I love when we meet Leia and her dad. It's great to see Jimmy Smits. I love him. Everything he'll do. Good to see Bail Organa again. I like that we got to see their world felt more integrated than it ever did in the past. Like seeing it in this version felt like it was a Star Wars town. Like,
sure,
definitely.
And in the past, it always felt too CGI. This like felt better than it ever did, even though it's ostensibly more CGI than it's ever been. So, she's fun. She's plucky. She's got a fun little droid. Lola. I hate Lola. Lola was literally like, "Hey guys, remember the Ewoks and all the toys we sold? Check me out. I'm Lola." And you're like, "Okay."
Did you like BB-8?
Yeah, I did like BB-8. He wasn't as bad as Lola. He is still like, "Hey guys, I'm here to sell toys," but I was like, Lola was like, "Hey guys, I'm here to sell toys," and I was like, I don't know why. I can't help it. Probably because it's targeting girls, and I'm like, I'm angry about that. No,
you can't make Star Wars ladybugs.
Yeah, it's like a pink droid. No, it's just a flying around goober thing, but it's fine. Fine.
Oh, it's fine.
She runs off and gets kidnapped by one of the Red Hot
Chili Peppers.
In a terrible chase sequence, like a very badly done chase.
Because the guys can't go through trees or go underneath the tree. They're like,
I'm glad I wasn't the only one that was cringing through that whole thing. I've never kidnapped before, but I don't think I'd be foiled by branches.
This is the moment where I'm like, oh no. And but it set things up. Okay, we have our dusty guy who doesn't want to be the guy anymore. It's classic Rambo.
It's cowboy samurai stuff, right?
Yeah, it's cowboy samurai stuff. Classic Rambo. Rambo, come help us. No, I don't want to do that anymore. Rambo, come help. No, I already did Rocky IV. Rambo, come help us. And then he finally does. And I like that. I like that they're working on it. We have some good stuff. We meet some of these Inquisitor fuckers.
First time I really cared about the Inquisitors, and she was the reason why. She was cool.
Who?
Reva? Yeah, she was fucking cool.
Third sister. Now, here's something I got
a cool arc,
about.
a decent arc, but I like during that first episode, I was like, okay, it's not necessarily reinventing any molds, but I like that there's a whole new sect of dark Jedi. I mean, we've seen them in all their iterations and stuff, but I like that we're seeing more about them. I thought they looked cool. Look, the guy with the hat looked a little Halloween costumey, but like fucking whatever, man. It's Star Wars television.
He's
40
picking
years
out hats. He's like, I got this old Sega here.
Yeah.
Sega. I could play fucking Sonic the Hedgehog off his head. But
I thought they were cool, and she was great. I thought she was a good actor. I thought the character was good, and then just as the series went on, I liked her character even more.
You brought it up. Let's get into them. Two things about this. I liked her. She was a good actor, but she kind of felt like Marilyn Munster to me. It's like the normal one in the Munsters.
Yeah.
Look, everybody should be like, I know there's a toxic fandom that got all shitty about her being in this show. This has nothing to do with that. Fuck those people. She's awesome. She did a great job. Cool character. Awesome. Everybody else in that was like scarred to shit from their evil shittiness, and she was just like, "Hi, I'm annoyed." Like, give her a scar across the eyebrow, red eyes, like some gnarly teeth. Like there was nothing evil about her. Haven't you ever seen a Disney movie? Like the bad guys have scars or deformity of some sort, and you were just like, "Hey, I could be your fifth grade math teacher for all you give a shit about." Like, just do something to be evil. Like look the part. And it's like, to me, that they didn't do that was like less of a disservice than like if they, so that was weird to me. I love that she goes by Third Sister because that's such a kung fu movie thing. One of my favorite kung fu movies is 8 Pilgrims Pole Fighter, and they're all 8 Diagrams Pole Fighter, and they're all named by like 5th brother, yes, 3rd brother, we must find 6th brother, oh no, and they're like going off like fighting dudes and shit, and like that's just how they're known is 5th brother, 6th brother, 5th brother. They all go crazy like that, and it's cool to see that hierarchy. She had a great arc. She had some great things going on, but I just wanted like one contact, red eye. I don't know anything.
Well, to go back to that, I mean, she actually did. You find out later that she got stabbed in the stomach by Anakin. You just couldn't see it because she's wearing her uniform. So, but she actually did get stabbed because you end up finding out that one Padawan youngling that they zoom in on the first scene of the first episode is Reva, third sister. But the thing that is cool about what they did and why they probably didn't give her anything appearance-wise is because she technically really isn't a Sith. Because even the Grand Inquisitor always kept saying, you are one that is not like us. Mm-hmm. We pulled you from the gutter. You came to us, you know? So it's always paralleling that she was still on the light side, but now she's trying to seek vengeance. And that's the thing with the Inquisitors is they weren't technically all bad. They started off as Jedi or Force wielders, and then they became bad through hatred with, you know, hating Vader and stuff like that. That's why these Inquisitors are under Vader, and pretty much what fuels them is their hatred towards the Sith and Vader and stuff like that. So,
and I love that, like, you know, for the longest time, I just wanted my entertainment and my childhood stuff left the way it was. But now I like that they're building stuff. Like, I love the dark versus light side. And I love, they're like, again, watching Empire Strikes Back, I can almost get choked up by some of the lessons that Yoda is teaching when he's talking about the dark side and light side. He's talking about emotions, right? He's talking about different things that all of us feel in the way that we handle it. But when you think about Jedis, I love the fact that now through comics and video games and everything, it's not just good and bad. It's not just, you know, heroes and evil. There's other Force wielders. There's other Jedi. There's other paths to take besides just being an actual Jedi in Coruscant or Darth Vader and the Sith. There's other variants, and I like that. And I like the idea that Darth Vader and the Emperor would take these wayward Jedi who have an inclination towards the dark side, but are not full Jedi or not full Sith, and kind of use them as Inquisitors, as attack dogs, as a spearhead. I think that's a pretty cool idea, you know? There's parts of it I don't like, but there's parts of it I do, and I think this show was a great way to showcase that. Is there, Kyle, is this Reva's first appearance? We haven't seen her in other stuff, right?
No, we have not. So the Inquisitors were brought in the TV show, the animated TV show Rebels. Mm-hmm. And the fifth brother was actually in that one, along with the Grand Inquisitor. But the third sister was never introduced in that show. This was a brand new character for this specific show. And like you said, her story arc was actually really good. I thought it was going to be a little cheesy, but it made perfect sense that she was this Jedi youngling that you saw in the beginning, and you watched her progression grow into what she is at the end, and then you finally see her redemption arc. So
I think a lot of that is on her, the actress, because I think we all saw where that was coming or where that was going. Then she says she wants to betray Vader at a certain point, and I was like, that's pretty cool. I'm on board for that. I didn't see that coming. I knew that there was going to be something related to that Jedi temple opening. I got that pretty quickly, but like the fact that she wanted to fight Darth Vader, kill Darth Vader, that was cool. And I feel like anybody in a movie can act mad, but I got that she was dark. I got that she was rage. I got that she was angry. So like she was one of my favorite parts of this whole series.
Yeah, it was definitely a good plot twist. Like as soon as you found out, like, oh shit, she doesn't really like Vader at all. She just wants to get revenge on him for the stuff that he did to her when she was a Padawan and killed her friends and stuff like that. But it's pretty cool how they subtly integrated that into there to the point where you're like, oh, this actually does make sense. And it's pretty cool to see her character growth.
It's really cool because the moment when Obi-Wan realizes they're on both sides of this door and he's trying to hold the door closed.
That was a good episode.
And that was a great episode. And she comes through with her lightsaber and he's like, oh, you don't want to join Vader. You want to kill Vader. And she was like, bah. And it's like, I thought it was going to be, they wanted you to think that it was just going to be about her climbing the ladder. She just wants to be Grand Inquisitor. But the fact that it's like, oh no, she wants to climb the ladder so she can get close to Vader and kill him. I thought that was pretty wild. And then like early on in like the second episode, she kills, I'm doing air quotes right now. I can't see my fingers. Can't see what my fingies are doing, you guys. She kills the Grand Inquisitor, so we think. And it's like, whoa, I did not see that coming. And then she kills him and Obi-Wan's hiding and she's walking around and she goes, he's not dead, right? And I was like, whoa. And it cuts to Darth Vader, Hayden Christensen in the back to tank and his eyes open up. And I was like, what? Whoa! That's when the show like really kicked off, because that episode when he goes looking for Leia and he goes to this shitty like planet. It's like a city planet.
Dayu.
I have some VFX issues with it, but we don't have to get into that. The limits,
has some fake Jedi comedian issues with it.
Yes. So then we meet Kamal, and Kamal Nanjiani. Yeah. Yep. I like him a lot. I do. Mm-hmm. You could put anybody in that role. If I recognize them as a comedian, I'm not going to be happy.
Fair.
You could put Key and Peele together in there. The two Jedi shitheads. I wouldn't have been happy.
You're right.
You could have resurrected. Yeah. You could have resurrected fucking Mrs. Doubtfire himself, Robin Williams, and I wouldn't have been happy. Like, it doesn't fucking matter. I recognize the character. You are bigger than the character that you are portraying, and you're bigger than the part you're portraying as a star. Like, anybody you put in that role that I'm like, hey, that person from all those other things, and then they aren't that character, that bothers me. So he did fine. He probably did the character fine, but again, like Matt, I was distracted by it.
I think if he wasn't a comedian, I think that's it for me. Because like it could have been like Adrian Brody, I would have been fine. It could have been Negan from Walking Dead. I mean, I agree it shouldn't be that big of a deal. But if you're putting a person in there, they should play it straight. But instead, he was like, and I'm sure that's how it was written and directed. I don't think it was the actor's fault. But to me, it was just like, why are we being goofy? There's like shit on the line. Like, we're being serious. The whole show has been serious. So now there's not, even the kid is being more serious than you.
And I fucking love the idea that they laid out with that. You're on this planet. There's this Jedi, and they're like, it's a swindler. He's a shyster doing bad shit. And you're like, that's kind of cool. That's a great idea. But yeah, it was.
You could also have a baller arc with that samurai style, right? Same thing. You have a samurai comes into town, finds a fake samurai taking advantage of this town for money, and then that samurai samurai ends up getting redeemed. He gets redumped at the end. Redeemed, yeah. Sorry, it's fucking late. I'm tired. But like that would be a cool thing, whether he turns out to be a Jedi or not. It'd be cool at the end he does kind of have an arc where he starts to be more heroic. He even tries to fight for stuff, right?
Yeah, but it's really forced at the end.
For sure.
Yeah. They're like, take care of Leia. It's like, that's the last person you would ever say. You'd be looking around the room. He's like, I'll do it. And you're just skipping over him. You're like, hey, stranger we've never met before. Do you want to take care of a child? And he's like, I said I'll do it. And you're like, anybody else over on the left side of shit?
Well, I feel like it's Obi-Wan probably called Mando. It was like, hey, I got this really important kid following me around, but I also have to do some adventuring shit. Do I really need the kid to be right next to me all the time? And Mandalorian was like, you should watch on the YouTube because I'm using my microphone like a phone. I think it's good prop comedy. And Mandalorian is like, no, man, sometimes I just leave him with fucking Sedaris's sister, and she's in a garage somewhere. I've left him in more places than I've brought him, come to think of it. And then Obi-Wan's like, well, I mean, how do you vet these people? Like, what sort of questions, what sort of tests do you put them through to make sure? No, I just give. Like, what am I going to do? I got to go be a bounty hunter and shit.
He's like, if they're funny, Amy Sedaris is funny. And he's like, oh, this fake Jedi is funny. All right, here you go.
I'm like, are they currently in care of a youngling? No. Here you go. I'll be back in 3 days.
But I love when he sneaks into this place to save Leia, because he does some like Breaking Bad shit. He's like, all these like people are doing space meth or whatever, and he blows up the lab. He kills Red Hot Chili Peppers, R.I.P. and fucks some shit up. And it's like, that's great. And then he like walks out with her under his cloak, which is
womp 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 womp.
Which isn't the last time this happens in this show.
Yeah, that was definitely the biggest like. Did we put the gag reel in the show by accident?
Yeah. But they had some cool aliens and all that stuff. That was good. I like that. But
definitely a good Breaking Bad episode for sure.
and they did what they had to, but it ends so strong. We get the death of the Inquisitor and the reveal that Anakin is alive, even though we know it, but he didn't know it.
Yeah.
What? So
and
fucking cool.
It really fucks with his psyche after that. He's just like going through his head all the good and bad memories of Anakin, and it flashes back, and then that's when Darth Vader's eyes or Anakin's eyes open up, and you're like, oh shit.
And I love that throughout all of this, he's looking for Qui-Gon as a Force ghost. He's like, Master, if you can hear me, please talk to me, pick up the phone, and like nothing. And it's like, damn, dude, like you feel him being so alone. And I thought that was such a great thing to show, like, what is your headspace at? And I thought they really got into it in a great way. So then the next, and there was that cool rooftop fight scene that was freaking great. People get shot off the roof. There's like a 4-LOM droid that's shooting at people and
Velociraptor sniper.
Yeah.
Yep. And then Reva parkouring it or parkouring it over.
Parkour. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which was awesome. And then they get to so when we get into the next episode, they're on this like desolate planet that's like taken over by the Empire, and we really see some of the effects of the Empire. And they meet this goofy mole guy who's like, "Hey, where are you going?"
Yeah.
Do. And we get Leia being plucky, and this is where I was like, "This is the episode that's going to make or break Leia for me," because she's either going to charm me and win me over, or piss me off because she's too plucky and funny.
Yeah.
And she actually won me over. They played it. They toned it down. And here's something I really want to bring up about this show. I felt like there were two visions fighting the whole time. And one of them is Lola and little Leia. Like, we need them in this more. We need them to be doing shit more. We need more funny things. We need more funny stuff. And then the one that's like, I want to see how fucked up I can get when I've lost a war and Obi-Wan is like suffering with all that weight of being a failure and the dark side gnawing at the back of him, literally chasing him. This could be a story about him fighting off the urge to just be consumed by the dark side, because when he fights Vader, the anger, and they keep showing this battle. And those two stories, I think one that was really mature and one that wanted to sell toys and appeal to kids, weren't from the same person. And I felt like you could be like Disney being like, hey, lighten this up a little bit so we can sell some toys. And then the creator of this and the showrunner, who I'm not even going to pretend I know who that is, being like, I wanted to make some badass shit.
That's some good journalism, Ruby.
Yep. Good podcasting journalism. So like that dichotomy is felt throughout the whole thing. And I feel like that's where this has its problems, is it didn't know what it wanted to be sometimes. And I don't think it's necessarily one person's fault or two people's fault. It's a company versus a couple of artists and probably a couple of writers. And, I think we got a decent version of it, but I don't think it went as far as it could. Mm-hmm. We're on this planet, we get them talking. He says, I remember your mother. And it was like, damn, Padme.
And then in the director's cut, he goes, she was fine.
And I love the scene when the stormtroopers get on the transport with them and they're asking him questions. This is a classic, like, Quentin Tarantino scene where it's like you have this big, important, like, conversation and it's interrupted by bad guys. And now you have to, like, have this big dialogue. And, like, they get out of it. Like, Leia pulls it off. He pulls it off, even though they slip up. And then they're like, whew, out of that mess. And then the dude, like the little mole dude, turns the corner, is like, hey, I found there's this laser gate out in the middle of nowhere, which looks like a fucking Hasbro toy.
Yeah.
Tell me that doesn't look like they have a Lego set of it somewhere.
Yeah.
Like the little mole guy that's cut in half. And Obi-Wan proceeds to destroy them. And it's fucking awesome. Awesome.
Yeah, so that mole guy, just a little more insight. That mole guy is actually voiced by Josh Braff from what's that ER show that he was in?
Zach Braff from
Zach Braff. There you go.
Scrubs.
There you go. And then so he plays that mole guy. And then to bring up the whole conversation with like Leia and stuff like that, it just shows you how smart she is at 10 years old, where she like is quick witted and she like the stormtroopers are like, I thought you said her name was Luma. And she goes, oh, and then that's when they all were like, well, and that's when Obi-Wan says, that's her mother's name.
Yeah.
Because she reminds me so much of her. And then that kind of like parallels between Padme and Leia, and stuff like that. So yeah, I was pull on the heartstrings a little bit on that one. But yeah, just them getting out of that situation was crazy. And then the stormtrooper falling on the laser gate, and you're like, oh, they actually did that.
Yeah. There was a couple that actually did that in this show. Yeah.
Complete with a Wilhelm scream.
Yep. And then cut in half.
So good. So good.
And then the betrayal at the end where you're like, oh, they're about to die. And then all of a sudden Tala comes out of nowhere and shoots all three of those stormtroopers in the back. And you're like, oh, she's a spy.
And that is cool. That is something that like I almost would watch her spinoff, because that's something, and some of my favorite thing, and immediately made me remember watching the first V miniseries in the 80s. As a kid, I was watching it, and I remember there's an episode where there's a fifth column, and it's visitors who know that what they're doing is not right, and they want to help the humans. And I remember as a kid being like, what a fucking cool concept. These alien conquerors come down, but there are some good ones in there. I just thought that was such a cool dynamic to throw into the mix. And to see that here, it immediately pulled me back into that, because I was like, shit, man, collectively, how much Star Wars have the three of us read, watched, played, imagined? Mm-hmm. That's not usually a factor that we come in, is like that there's probably spies in the Empire. There's probably people who got burned out in the Empire and then they joined up for the right reasons at the beginning, and then the Empire changed or their views changed. You don't see that as much, right? But when you take time to explore that, it's actually a really cool arc for a character to have.
See that, and that's something that I always felt like, to go back to V, is that like they seem like they had a good thing going, and that's the problem with Star Wars, is like the Empire. There have to be some people who are like, well, they're bringing order to the universe. Mole Guy was like, they're bringing order,
right?
And it's making everything work, and I'm here for it. And it's like, the problem is they look evil. They look
right, like Nazis. Like they're blowing up. Like the Darth Vader looks bad. They're blowing up planets.
Yeah.
Nazis, like, look at the design of all of their wardrobe. They look like the bad guys.
I mean,
like, think of what they're doing.
Right?
They look like the bad guys.
Literally, they look like they like. If you're going to look at a group of people and you're like, the Sandlot over here, all these plucky kids, or these boot stomping, uniform wearing, black and red motherfuckers.
Yeah.
Burn books. I wonder who the bad guys are going to be. Like, good guys are just never this well dressed. Period.
Yeah,
that's probably true.
Yeah.
So,
well, the parallel of that, like bringing back to like the Nazis and stuff like that, like the Inquisitors are like the SS agents and Darth Vader's Hitler, right? So it's like them going in these towns that they have no business being in, but because they're in so much. They have so much power drive that they just walk into a city and not give any fucks about anybody. Like Reva cuts off the hand of that one lady because she's like, you'll always remember us because when you look down at your hand, that you'll see us. And she like cuts the girl's hand out because she's trying to talk back to her. And you're like, oh shit!
I forgot about that. Yeah, that's when I was like, okay, this character's here.
Yep. So.
And I love the character, the spy character. I thought she was a great arc. She was awesome in Game of Thrones. She was a real conniving, sexy lady.
I don't watch that nerdy shit.
Oh, it's so good, dude. So good. It's so good. Anyway, she's awesome in this, and she takes him back to the town, and they're trying to hide. And we meet this awesome loader robot that I love, the silent like loader robot. What's it?
Ned B.
Ned B.
Yeah.
Ned
I just realized he looks
awesome.
like a little pencil caddy that I won at school called Mr. Robo, I think his name was. And he was yellow like that too. And his head opened up. You could put paper clips in. He had a shelf in his belly. He had a eraser for a foot and a sharpener for a foot. And he could hold pencils in his hands. And he looked just like that motherfucker. And he never said anything either.
He was one of the droids that I really liked. He was a fun droid, really cool. And we get this like underground railroad stuff, which I was like, this is awesome. This is fascinating. And at the end of this episode, the Inquisitors show up. They're cutting off hands. Darth Vader shows up, and we get this like fucking brutal moment of him just walking through the town and people are screaming. He just snaps this kid's neck. Yep. And he's like, Dad, snaps that kid's neck. He comes over and just picks up this dude. And he's like, I'm just relentless. Chokes this lady, drags him to him, and then drags her down the street, kicking and screaming. And you're just like, this is the scariest I've ever seen Darth Vader.
Yeah.
Ever.
Oh, yeah.
Ever. And it was...
Just knowing that it was Hayden Christensen that was doing it. The acting was him. So it was a faster paced Darth Vader. I don't know if you guys noticed, but when he comes walking down that street, it's like super fast paced, but it's still menacing. And if you watch that behind the scenes one that they have on Disney Plus, A Jedi's Journey or A Journey's Past or something, it talks about the behind the scenes, and everybody that was on set that day when they filmed that shot was literally on set just watching this happen, because they were like, this is the first time Darth Vader is like full blown Hayden Christensen just wrecking this town, menacing like all the townspeople. And just to get Obi-Wan to come out of his hiding place. Yeah. And Obi-Wan has to fight it and know that he can't help these people, because then he gives away his position. And his most important goal right now is to get Leia safe. So he's just watching these people just get murdered in the street, and he can't do anything about it. But even Darth Vader plays on that, because he actually kind of looks like he knows where he is. And he's like, hey, I'm going to taunt you. I'm going to kill these people and drag their bodies across the street, and you can't do anything about it. So
cold-blooded. I mean, it's the scariest I've ever seen Darth Vader. And, we get all this Obi-Wan like, hey, the one thing I'm trying to do, protect this, go run down this tunnel by yourself and meet up with a stranger. Cool, bye. I'm going to go try and
Mando playbook. Mando playbook.
I'm going to try and draw out Darth Vader and distract him. And, we get some really cool cutting between Leia being chased by Reva. We're cutting to the spy. What was her name?
Tala.
Trying to save Obi-Wan, and Obi-Wan confronting Darth Vader, and he can't even fight him. Like, he just is terrified. He's paralyzed by his fear, paralyzed by his failure, and seeing it come to life. Like, it's the scariest Darth Vader has ever been. And I love this scene that's only lit by the blue lightsaber and then the red.
Yeah.
And they're running through this like little mining area of all these rocks and stuff, and Darth Vader's like lighting shit on fire and chucking him around and just drags him through the fire, and his shoulders burning up, and I'm like, holy shit. And there's one moment here, and I think this is an editing problem, where like Ned B and Tala open fire on the stormtroopers and they save Obi-Wan, and Darth Vader's just like standing there. And I think if you saw his eyes, or if you had he wasn't wearing a helmet, you'd see him being like, my old friend and my old adversary. Like there would be a nostalgia to it that kept him from just walking through that fire and snapping his neck, like picking him up into the air and chucking him 30 feet into the desert. Like, what kept him from just finishing the job? And there was something about like I want to see where this goes. I understand that there could be a reason for it, but character-wise, it's just him standing there in the helmet, and you're like,
right.
Well, you didn't push in on it. Like,
you could have done 1,000 things.
The editorially, just don't show him standing there that long. Like, push in on his face, change the music so that there's a moment, cut to a flat, like do anything that shows I'm not killing him for reasons. And like, I'll invent those reasons in my own head to justify it, because it's a really cool scene. But like, literally, they keep cutting to Darth Vader. He's just kind of like, well, that's on fire. And everybody else is scrambling. And he's like, and it's like, I get it. Cool guys aren't affected by explosions, but like, he's getting away. Just like, like, we've already seen you're a badass. You're more powerful.
You have a magic power where you don't even have to move. Yeah. Like, you don't even have to raise your arm if you don't want to. We've seen you force do shit without even moving your body parts. Just stand there.
Yeah. He could have finished the job. He could have ended him right then and there, and he didn't, for some reason that wasn't very clearly.
I think he just wanted to make Obi-Wan feel the pain that he did. Because these episodes, I don't know if you guys noticed, but these episodes follow from the prequel trilogy all the way to episode 6 of the original trilogy. So every episode kind of follows suit of the movies. So like this episode definitely had Revenge of the Sith vibes because it's episode 3. So obviously Obi-Wan now is being dragged through the fire instead of, Obi-Wan cutting off Anakin's legs and Mustafar and him catching on fire. And, to bring up your point with Darth Vader and stuff, like, wouldn't you have learned that, fire is not a good thing around him? Maybe he should make his suit fireproof. I mean, we're in a galaxy far, far away. You would think that they'd have materials that were fireproof. He could just walk through and,
right?
But
he just starts reacting like Frankenstein. Fire bad. Fire bad. I love that it was James Earl Jones, and he retired this week. He said he's done doing Darth Vader. Wow. Which that's too bad. But you know what?
Yeah.
With a good voice modulator, I think we'll be all right. But like, man, it's really cool. It's really cool that they brought so many people back for this, whether it's the actors from the prequel trilogy or all the way up through James Earl Jones. Oh man,
my contributions have been on fire tonight. I feel like shit, and I did not think I was going to do a good job, but I'm at least cracking us up.
Well, it's crazy, how you said that James Earl.
I was going to say, if this is where we want to stop, this is a good place because we're about to get into the next episode.
Yeah.
Cool.
So let Kyle wrap up. We'll let Kyle say whatever, and we can wrap up. We haven't done it. We haven't done one of those like, wow, we're having such a fun time. Let's break this into 2 episodes.
Oh, yeah. Do you want it? Is that? Are we literally going to break it into 2 episodes, or
why not?
Okay, yeah, all right.
Well, because
we're like, want to, I mean,
this is the end of the 3rd episode, right?
This is the end of the 3rd, so then you got 3 more episodes after that.
Yeah, so it's like we're pretty much halfway exactly, right?
Yeah, I was just gonna add that the fact that the voice surf thing that you were talking about, or James Earl Jones retiring, they actually. Well, are we still recording?
Yeah, say it official.
Okay. So, Aaron, back to what you were saying about the voice of James Earl Jones being used, and now he's retiring. They actually used a voice I guess synthesizer or decoders that actually took James Earl Jones's voice with Anakin's voice. So when Hayden Christensen actually talks, it's actually his voice, but merged with James Earl Jones's voice. So you could hear because they did the same thing in Rebels with Matt Lanter's voice, who played Darth Vader in the Rebel series, when he's talking to Ahsoka when they're in that Sith. I guess the Sith temple.
That was one of the best new Star Wars moments that I can recall. But yeah.
Yep.
So essentially, you're saying that they made the box on Darth Vader's chest in the Star Wars universe. They made that in real life, right? Because Anakin Skywalker, Sebastian Shaw from the first movie, from Return of the Jedi, he wasn't actually, and David Prowse, they weren't talking like that. Darth Vader's little chest makes it go beep, boop, beep. Now they made that for real life. So I'm imagining now that all those actors, I'm imagining Hayden Christensen had to put a thing on his chest and go press the green and the red buttons. Boop, boop, boop. Shh, I think it's working.
Oh my God, you just made me realize something. When they filmed the first 3 movies, he doesn't breathe like that constantly. They're on set and he's like, hey guys, how's it going? I'm Darth Vader. We're gonna make it really cool in post, but this is what I
so he might, because they probably were saying the lines right for pacing and timing and stuff. So it was just another person. It probably wasn't James Earl Jones saying the lines in real time, but with no breathing. That was probably fine while they filmed A New Hope, but once they got to Empire Strikes Back, they're like, this is weird.
Yeah. Well, I think it was the original actor who had a British accent, right? The guy who originally played Darth Vader.
Yeah, he was in the suit.
So he was in the suit and he was actually talking, and you were like, the muffle sound like that. But they're like, no, we need something more menacing. That's when they brought in James Earl Jones.
At first I was just a learner, but now I am the master.
That's crazy to me, because one of the most how would you know to pause for that perfect moment of
right? Yeah.
Right.
Because that's such a perfect thing when it hits in the original trilogy. Wow, they really had to engineer.
Maybe David Prowse just had super colds for the first little bit, and then they watched dailies. They were like, "That's actually pretty cool. What if Vader breathes through a respirator?" No. Keep that.
Yeah.
Take the stupid British talking, but leave his breathing.
Don't erase none of this good shit. No, don't erase none of this good shit in the booth. Well, I think this is a good place to pause, press our little beep boop on the chest and pause. Because we're going to get into episode 4. Kyle, where are we leaving off? What is the state? Where are our friends? What's happened to Leia? Leave us with the cliffhanger. What's happening right now?
At the end of episode 3.
So the end of episode 3 is obviously we know that Leia is going to get kidnapped by Reva. She kills the person that's at the end that's supposed to take her to the shuttle in Jabin, and that is not going to happen. So Reva ends up capturing her, and then Obi-Wan is left getting rescued by Ned B and Tala and put into the Bacta tank. And that's where everything lies. Ends. Nope.
It's crazy. And this is where this kicked off into high gear for me. From here on out, I'm pretty on board with it. It took 2 episodes to warm up, but by the 3rd episode, we were into some good old-fashioned crazy Star Wars and some good style too. And I was just impressed. I was really impressed with this episode. And I think it set the tone for the rest of the series of just being, getting pretty dark, getting pretty heavy, and really putting on some very interesting ideas. So I was really excited to see where it went. Guys, hit us up on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at LaunchpadPod, and our website, launchpadpod.com. Watch that YouTube for some funny faces that we make. Oh, whoa, whoa, goofy. We're goofy dudes. VFX. Super fun. And like we said, we'll be back with another episode to finish off the Obi-Wan Kenobi series. I am watching Andor right now. I am 2 episodes in. I know there's more than that, but I'm trying to do my best. I'm doing my best, guys. So yeah, we will definitely do Andor at some point as well. But yeah, guys.
Kyle, where can everybody follow you, find your stuff?
You could follow me on Instagram at I know Chaos Surfer 805. That's usually where it is. But I don't have anything else, any other platforms. But it's been fun being on here with you guys as always. And I know we're going to continue our next part of this in a later date. But it's always fun to be on you guys' podcast. And I appreciate you guys having me.
Hell yeah, dude. We got to blast this thing off. Classic 3-way blast off. Here we go. Do you remember how to do it? Let's do it. 3, 2, 1. We've been the Rocketeers with Kyle Akahoshi, and we are out.
Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.